Hello, and welcome back to yet another OpenLoco stream. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the company face selection window. So, I've already opened up the Visual Studio, and I've got the company face selection window all ready to start implementing. Now, this is actually this functions actually in a sub-branch of the company window, which we've been working on recently. So I'm just gonna make a new branch for this window, which will be branched off the company window because I'm going to use some of the functions from that window. Okay, so that is our new branch. So first of all, it's always a good idea to have a look to see what the window is you're going to be implementing, what it exactly does. So the face selection window is the window which comes up when you click on the person's face. So you can choose whatever one of these faces. Pretty simple window. There's not many interactive elements. So we've got obviously the face, and we've got the selection scroll box, and we've got a close button, and that is about it. So probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 widgets in total, because you'll have the frame, close box, this text, the scroll, and then that should be a fifth. That might not actually be a widget. It might, because it's not, you can't interact with it. So that might just be drawn on top of the frame. Okay. So now we've had a look to see how it currently operates, we'll now have a look, see what it looks like in IDA. So use the shortcut G to type in the address 434F52. That is one I already have open. So pretty much all windows in their open command, first of all, check to see if they're already opened. So we can see here it's calling the window bring to front by ID, and that will check to see if that window is currently open, and if it is currently open, then I'll just show you what it looks like. If a window is currently open, you'll see it does a little flash. So that's what the bring to front by ID will do. We'll make it just do that little flash. And then we can see it branches into two separate code paths, one being for if the window does exist, and one for being if the window doesn't exist. So let's just type in that first part. So all of the bringing to front and whatever will be in the window manager class. So we've modified this a little bit. You can see we've got two different overloads of the bring to front. So you can either pass it a window if you already have the pointer to the window, or you have to give it a window type and an ID. Now, every window can have a window type, so that'll be like your player info panel or your scenario options or whatever. But then you can also have an additional number, so that'll be your if you had multiple stations open, each of your stations would have a different number. So that's what the that number represents. So for our one, we don't have anything. There's only one type of company face selection, so that's the reason why it's ORing out DX. So you can just double check that that is how it works. Okay, so we haven't written down what the parameters are, like like in this function, but quite often you will see that. It's just a bit of a nice to have. We don't need it for every function, but some of the ones which you use more often. So that'll return a Windows pointer, and if it's null pointer, in fact, we can just use it like that. So that's if it exists, and then this is if it doesn't exist. Now we no longer require this. I'm just going to comment it out for now. Eventually we'll come around to deleting it, but if I want to do some tests, I'll uncomment that. So let's see. JNZ, that means jump, not zero. 0 is obviously if it's a null pointer, that's a 0. At the very end of this function, it will have done, see there, or ESI. So that's put the whether it's 0 or not into the flags register. So that's the reason why this jump can work, even though we haven't set it up in this function. It's at the end of here. It did a or ESI. And then if you looked in find window, it also did an or an XOR. So that's how you've got the flags register updated. So JNZ, so jump not 0. So that's if the window does exist. So here's window does exist. So that's this part. First thing we're doing is passing a value into this global. Now, I really don't think that this global will have been defined anywhere yet. Nope, it's not defined. I'm just going to save myself a little bit of typing by finding some other global variable. Since we don't know what it's used for just yet, we will just call it 9C68F2. And then obviously you've got to change. So if you go watch the previous stream, you'll see I described what these local globals are. They're basically just addresses which are within the existing OpenLoco, in the existing loco.exe file. So that's just saying that variable exists in loco.exe, and we are setting that to AL. What is AL in this? Well, AL, it will be whatever we passed into here, because if you saw down here, regs.eax is the ID, EAX is a 32-bit register, which is split into a 16-bit register, which is AX, and then the two 8-bit registers make up AX, so that's AL and AH. So ID is in the bottom 8 bits of EAX, so that's why it's AL. And then we're also putting it into 884. Can't remember if we have gone in. No. Oh, looks like I have come up with a better name than 884. Let's just have a look. Oh, that's the owner. There's already a PR which will be adding the comment here saying 884. So I'm not going to change it right now, but that should have really had the little address here, so we can quickly see that 884 is the owner. And then what are we doing here? This is some sort of common function across both the if it exists and if it doesn't exist. So this is probably setting up the interactive part of this window. So if you remember, we had all of the different types of face you could select. So this is probably doing some sort of setup function. Now I did have a quick look at this earlier, so I kind of cheated in that I know what it is that it's doing. It's looping through all of the objects and then checking something. I haven't quite looked into what that something is. And then it's got some memory space that it's allocated in this function, and it updates that memory space. I think I can be pretty safe at guessing that what it's doing is looping through all of the competitor objects and saving whether they have a face associated with them. I think that is probably what it's doing. So for us, I'm going to create a new function called just the same as the address. I don't know what parameters it takes yet. It probably does take some parameters, so we may as well set it up for doing that. I think we did make a version of the call function where you don't need to give it any parameters. Yeah, we did. But I'm pretty sure I do need to give it some sort of parameters. Let's have another look to see if there's anything EBX, not anything related. So before this we had AX, AL. So is anything AL related? That is doing a compare with AL. So we obviously need to pass it in the company IDT ID. So that is a parameter which definitely needs to be passed in. Now the other thing it might possibly have is the Windows pointer, which is currently in ESI. So ESI. Nope, that has not been used because you can see it's getting reset here. So it looks as though the only thing that's been used is the company ID. So let's pass that into the function. That's all you need to do to pass it in. As already mentioned, it should end up on AL because that is where it's been used. Where was it? Here, AL. So that looks as though it'll probably work. I didn't check all of the other registers. You can be pretty confident that they aren't being used because it's this early in the function, and like you would design a window open function to probably be used from a lot of different places, so you try and minimize the amount of like different registers which are important. So I'm not going to go investigate every single possible register. I'm just going to say that's probably right. And then we should probably actually, call that function. And then finally it does a invalidate, so that will force the drawing engine to draw the area, and the area is defined by the dimensions of the window. So that's that side of the branch. It ends with a ret, so that's the end of the function. So let's move over to this side of the branch, which is creating a brand new window. So first of all, EAX, as already mentioned, is the company ID. So that's the reason why it's pushing that away, because we need to use it to set it over here. It's on ECX, it's passing in the window type, and EBX sometimes you get something like this and it just does not look right. If you go look at it, it's coming up with some really odd memory address. But that's because it's not actually an offset. This is a constant, and IDA has just made a mistake. So that's what it should have been. It should have come up as that number. Now, when you create a window manager, create window, is that it? Yes. Nope. You'll see that we've got this size, and then after the size we've got the flags, after the flags we've got the events. So EBX is the size, as you can see in here. So this is not an offset, it is two values smashed together. So we've got 0, 190, which is 400, and then on the other side we've got 110, which is 272, and then altogether it's been written like that, which is not very helpful to anyone. So we know that the size is 400 by 272. What does it mean? I keep switching back to this page because I just want to save typing. I'm just going to do some copy and pasting. Where is it? Width and height. Width will be a smaller number, 272, 400. So that is window size. It's not actually that version of the create, it's this version. The difference is the origin, which you have to specify. Now the next one is flags, which is on ECX. Now we have passed in the company face selection, and so that value is 2A, and that's been passed into the whole of ECX. So it's just filled the rest of the register with zeros. So there's no flags. So that's nice and easy. And have I got it wrong way around? Size, flags, events. Oh, misspelled that. That's what I've done wrong. Now events, that's our last variable, which you can see here. This is the offset to the events. Now the events are an array of function pointers. Now in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, when we were recreating that, we ended up creating like these massive arrays which copied this structure, and we've sort of decided that was a bad idea. So the new idea is to just initialize only the ones which we've implemented, and then the rest of them are of course going to be null pointer. So after you've sorry for just copy pasting, but it's just quick. I don't think we're going to need all of those functions, but let's have a look. So it's got an event on close, so in fact I'm just going to delete all that. What do we call the event? Just go to events. I think I put underscore there. I did. That's better. So we've got an on close. That equals something. We'll come back to that. And then we've got a mouse up. Again, we'll come back to that. Got a ton of null pointers, so we don't need to do anything for those. And then we've got scroll. Pretty much every scroll window will have a draw scroll, a get scroll size, and what's the other one they have? Maybe that's all. Oh, they'll have some sort of scroll mouse down here. Mouse down and a mouse over. What else do we have? We've got event tooltip. So the tooltip is what happens when you hover over something. So like in Visual Studio, you can see that hovering over this function has opened this little window to tell you a little bit. It's the same in locomotion. If you hover over something, it will give you a little tooltip. We've got a prepare to draw. Pretty much every window has a prepare to draw function. In OpenRCT2, we called that function invalidate, and it's a really poor name for it, and we should really change it because it really does not make any sense. Oh, I've already written draw scroll. I like to have them in the same order, but it's completely just preference. Now, I like to create little stub functions for every single one of these events. That's the next thing I normally do. Because we're no longer putting them straight into the array up here, we're using this function. You of course need to call this. So you need to init events. So that's going to be different to how it works in normal locomotion. So it's an extra little function call. So let's create little stub functions for all of these. It was suggested that if you put the init events at the very bottom of your function, then you don't need to create a bunch of declarations at the top of your function. Can't even stick to our own coding style. I normally just copy paste and edit from another function, but I saw the other day that none of these are actually following our coding style, so I thought I should probably type it out correctly. So for at least one window, it's almost correct. This is going to throw up a few little errors because I've not given any of these functions any of the correct parameters. So, what does an on-close event? We don't want the window manager, we want the window. So if you're ever not sure what parameters are meant to be, other than just hovering over here and having a peek at the definition, it takes up Windows Start. The other way is to look at how how it's called, and all of those calls are defined in window.cpp. If we went to like call, that one we're just looking at was close. Call close. So we can see in the original assembly, all it passed was the pointer to the window, which we've been calling self in this function. So that's satisfied that one. So this one's wanting a Windows pointer and a widget index. Oops. Help if I know ideally a lot of these should be const, but we haven't got around to doing that just yet. Should be something that we do eventually. So this one takes quite a few things. We want the Windows pointer, the scroll index, the scroll width, and the scroll height. I don't know why I wasn't just doing this, because that would be much quicker. I need to give that a name. I'm just trying to make it consistent, that's the reason why I deleted that. Have I done scroll mouse over? No. That's a bit of an odd one, not passing the window first, and that's one with modified. Should probably change it around so that window is the first first argument. Something to do in the future. So prepare draw just takes the normal Windows pointer. It's always just a bit of a manual labor doing this. I should probably create some sort of easy copy paste reference, because I mean every window you're just going to be copying and pasting just to get started on these. Next thing I like to do is, if I don't think it, if I think the window is going to be really complex, I'll set up a bunch of calls which pretty much copy the window. So I'll just copy this and set up the variables correctly, because that's just because I mean I don't always have the time to just make it all work at the same this time. I think what I'm going to do for this is, I think we'll just set up the drawing ones, so prepare, draw, draw, and draw scroll, because if we don't finish a function, then that will at least let us test it, show what it's displaying. So what I like to do is find the prepare draw, go to what happens in the interop, correct the little issues, and then that function will need to become, that'll need to become, oh come on, is that really all they're doing? That's so simple, I'm just going to go do it. So we need the format This is quite often how I end up doing all the functions, and because I keep thinking, oh, this one's so ridiculously simple, I'm just going to do that one, but then after that I'm just going to stop. I'm going to actually write all of these little cool functions. But I mean, when you see a function which is that short, you gotta just go and do it. There's no point messing about. So what is it doing here? It's getting the companies, so it's jumping into the companies, which is managed by the company manager, surprisingly enough. So we'll need to include that header, company manager. I bet we need, does that include company? Probably does. It does. It does include company, so we don't need to include company on top of that. I'll get the company first. That seems like... I really don't like it when they do this. Like, we've set up this variable to copy the owner. I mean, why didn't we just grab the owner from self, which we already have there? I'm gonna do it exactly as per the how it is in here, just because I don't want to mess up something which I don't know about just yet. But I'd like to come back and fix that. I'm just taking a massive guess at the company name. So what this is doing is it's multiplying by 8FA8, which is the size of a company. You can see it here, size of company 8F. And so that's like constructing how far into the company array you need to go. So the companies, defined in company manager, companies, so it's constructed how far into this it needs to go, and then it's extracting the first word, and the first word happens to be the name. So that is how that all works, and it's passing into the common format arguments. And if you'd seen the previous stream, you'll know that we've created some helper functions for that, which just do that. So it looks as though it's doing absolutely nothing, but if I was to I always like to have an older version running so you can compare your results. Sorry about the sound. So you can see on here we've got this along the top, which is the name of the window, but it's got the name of the company in it. And if we were to rename the company, oh no, I chose a too older build of the OpenLoco. It doesn't let you do any renaming. I'll just show you in a different save then. So you can see it says the name of the company, Freddy Fiddlesticks, is in there. So that's the reason that prepare draw functions often fire values into the common format argument. It's just for that title. It's a really not nice way of doing things, and one day we will change it so that you actually pass the variable in a more sensible fashion rather than stick it into a global variable. Anyway, where were we? We were creating little stub functions, so I was going to do draw. See, draw is a little bit more complex, so I'm not gonna do that one right now. It's still pretty simple, but so this address which we want in here is the address of this, which you can see at here. So it's 435003. I'm sure it's displayed in other locations, but that's the way I've always done it. And then draw scroll. Let's just grab that one. Again, looking down here, 435152. Let's just have a very quick peek at this function. Okay, it looks to be clearing and then looping through. Yeah, I mean all scroll windows will have some sort of loop in them. So that's pretty much as we expect. I'm just trying to hurry up and actually go back to where we were so people don't forget what it is we're doing. So before all that, before we started looking at all the events, we were creating the window. So I think now we've got everything for our create window string. We've got the face selection, which is the window type. We've got the size, which we've defined up above. No flags, and we're passing in our events. And our events we've initialized down here. All of these ones will do absolutely nothing. So if we were to run it right now, yeah, I think it might crash. So I'm not going to run it until I've done these next couple. Oh, and we also haven't passed it any. Haven't got any widgets attached to it. So the first thing after creating a window is pretty much all of these will have to set their widgets. So we haven't created any widgets yet, but that is what the next function is. So we can go here and we've beautified this quite a bit. We can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 widgets, and then the end widget. I can't remember what I said at the start of the stream of how many widgets I thought it would have, but probably something similar to that. I was just going to copy one of the other windows. That's a bit complex. So one of the other team members created this, which is a handy reference for the widgets, and it made it so that it outputs in a sensible format for you to just pretty much copy and paste. So I'd actually already prepared this. I'm not, for a change, I'm not actually going to be spending ages typing out a load of stuff. Now I've completely forgotten how I normally set this up, so I'm just again doing what I do best, which is copy and paste. I'm trying to make the code style a bit more consistent, and when I did the player info panel, I put an underscore, but after looking at a bunch of the other windows, they don't really do that, so that's the reason why I'm removing it. At some point I'll come back and correct that one. I always like to put the reference to where that is, 509680, so you can see it there as well as down there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 6 widgets. I'm just going to copy, paste. I really like Clang format because you can just write stupid things which look bad and then just hit that. So I always forget if all of these extra little functions have been designed to simplify things. Oh yeah, so if we don't define content, it will go as OXFFF, and if we don't define tooltip, it will go in as null. So we don't need to put anything there. So this is defining some content, which is string 15550. Let's have a look to see what that is. Select owner's face for string ID. So that string ID there is what this string ID that we're pushing on, that's what that is for. Let's have a look in string IDs, see what we've defined. Someone might have already done this, but I really doubt it. Because this is the name of this window. No, we haven't. What should we call that? Oh. Sometimes Clang format messes up. I think that was fully my fault for putting in the wrong character for a second. Let's just do the other strings whilst we're at it. 2321. Some of these might not be strings, some of them might be images. We won't know that until we see something which doesn't seem sensible. So 2321 does not seem sensible because it's off the end of this, so that is not a string. Oh, in fact, it even says SBR, it's a sprite. So that's some sort of sprite. String 60, this will be a tooltip. So that's close window, and that will be already defined. Yes, tooltip close window. And then what's this one? String 15551. Click to select company owner face. I can't actually remember where that text appears. Let's just have a look. It's a tooltip. Oh, so it's a tooltip on the scroll. Yeah, that makes sense. Where were we? Edited this line. What did I say that was? Tooltip close window 60. Sometimes I just forget where I am. Yep, 60. Yep. So this was company. Maybe I should have done tooltip first to follow that pattern. Let's just change that. Oh, wrong one. Let's just rename that. If you use a rename tool, then you don't need to mess around with any changing it in multiple places, and it's meant to be all safe and take care of everything for you. I don't want any of these extra comments. Okay, so why is this one not happy? Let's just make this full screen. Ah, it's because of a sprite. Do we know what that sprite is? It's the close sprite. But this will be on every single main window, so I'm sure, yeah, image IDs. And we've not included our image IDs are defined. It's in graphics image ID. Ta-da! That's all working. Now, this is, if you were to run this, you would get some really odd results. And the reason is that the widget end, you always need to include the widget end. The other day, I made a window and I completely forgot about the putting in a widget end. I was really confused. I thought I'd made like a complete mess up of some sort of drawing function. But no, I'd just forgotten to do that. And the drawing functions are pretty naive and they'll just keep going through the memory, just incrementing it until they get to the widget end. So if it doesn't reach an end, it'll just keep reading through the rest of your memory, drawing who knows what. So it'll give you an absolute mess. So that's got all of our widgets ready. The last thing you should do is create a enum for the widget indexes. Now, as already mentioned, I love to liberally copy paste. We don't have a viewport. Oh well. Not didn't completely pay off for this one. I don't know what this last one is. This is probably the actual image of the selected face. That's probably what Onc 5 is. I'm not too sure, but we'll see. So that has now given us all our widgets. So we can now go back to IDA. You can also double check this by looking in IDA and like going through each of these, being like, oh, that's, oh, wrong button. Ah, you can't change structure. Yeah, that's one reason it's a bit annoying, but obviously these are in hexadecimal and you'll need it in decimal to compare it. Not the greatest. Alright, so going back again to our open function, we have got OXC is it disabled widgets? No, it's not disabled widgets. It's enabled widgets. I knew it was something like that. For that'll just be scroll view. Oh no, that is completely wrong. No, it's a close button. Because it's one shifted right by the widget ID. So if you ever in doubt, you bring up your programmer mode of calculator and you type in what that number is, and then you go to the binary view and you can be like, oh, 4, 3, 2, it's 2, it's bit 2 is the close button.
Duncan, you
Yeah.
could also press the B button in IDA and that will convert the number to binary.
Ah, well. Nope. My my keyboard doesn't have the keycaps on it, so if I'm typing with one hand, I can't actually remember where the keys are. So that's why I
And if
quite
you
often.
press like on the ESI plus 0C
Yeah, I
thing,
know I
if you
can
press
go look on the.
yeah, if you just press T, like it will you will get like a window to select the struct, and it will remember the last struct you used. So if you set one of them to like window something, like you can just like go all over all ESI pointers.
All right.
Like just press T on the keyboard and then you can do enter, I think.
Yeah. No, that's. Bringing up the wrong. Oh well. I don't really mind. Anyway, that's done that.
Just figured it would be useful.
Yeah.
Go on.
Right, and then this. That's pretty simple, that part. This next one is copying the ID into the global variable again. 884. Can't remember. Oh, you know, there. See, I got really used to using Ollie debug, and you didn't have any of these sorts of extra little features which tell you useful information like that. So I got really used to just knowing that's the owner. In fact, we did it just up here. Oh, we've not included the object manager. Oops, not objects. Object manager. And which skin is it? Just completely forgotten what you do with the. You should always just have another window open, which you can just. Oh yeah, there's only one interface skin. That's what I thought. Yeah, wasn't going too crazy. So this is setting up the colors so that it follows the skin. You've got a variety of colors on a window. 886 is the start of the colors array, so it's setting the second color to what is it setting it to? Well, it would help if I included the Is that what we've done on other windows? Just doesn't feel, yeah, looks fine for that window. Must be good enough. Okay, so we're done that. Next part is 4355381. I had a look earlier, and that is setting up and allocating some memory. So it allocates some memory in here and then does some setting up. So that's continuing on the face drawing stuff which I mentioned before, where it has to do something with the objects, which I don't quite know what it is yet. So let's just does it take any parameters? So I'm going to take ECX. Can't be taking EAX. It's not, probably not taking ESI. It's doing a push of all of the, that often means that it's not going to be using any of them. Not always. I don't think it takes any parameters. But just in case, and because I'm probably going to implement it pretty soon after this stream. As said, I could have just done it like that, but I like to have it there just in case I misread it. So that allocates the memory, and then the next thing it does is it does whatever that function is, which is doing something with that memory. I'm not going to go to the trouble of grabbing the value out of there. It's not going to have changed because it's a company ID. Could have done that, but I think it's a bit pointless for this one. Nobody has used that variable before, or at least tagged it as being used. So some people might wonder why I chose to make it a uint16t, and the answer is, I don't know, it just seemed like a good idea. I quite often use that as the default for a word, which is what that is. I know that it's not 8 free C, but row count. Again, what I should have really done is told this that it is a... Oh, well. It doesn't have any of these defined. Oh well. Does it have that one? No. So it's got row count, which is set to AX, and then 840. 840 is the row hover. All of these are pretty standard for any window which has a scrolling part of it, because you quite often hover over it. So it would have to have some sort of hover information. 85A. No, we don't know what that is either. Is that? Yes, so this is something which sometimes catches people out. That says D word, not word, which is what that one is, 16 bytes. So it's also going into the next variable, which is 85C. But this one's been already defined as well. So this suggests there must be some sort of union. It's currently being used by the town window. It's getting set to -1. Let's just have a look at the town window. This is why it's really important to just keep these offsets in. You never know when you'll come back to have another look. Okay, so it's doing some sort of tool stuff. 85C. See, 85C is a word, not a D word. So that is incorrect. So that's interesting. So that was incorrect. So C, D, E. 5E. It's always good with these unknown ones, just have a look around to see what other windows have used. So this one has used it. So I don't think. What is that doing? They're using it for some sort of scrolling window related. I think what I'm going to do is make that signed rather than unsigned, because it doesn't quite make sense to do it like that. Am I going to cause a load of issues because I did that? Possibly, possibly. But when you see something which looks wrong, it's usually best to, if not, try and work out why it's wrong and fix it, or the absolute worst, leave a comment next to it for the next person. I quite often do that. It's not the most helpful, but you know, it's better than nothing. Okay, so that is now the open function all complete. So we can now have a look to see if it will compile for one. I think it will. And for two, we'll see if it actually kind of works. We have only actually implemented two of the functions, which are the open and the prepared draw. Not done the draw or the draw scroll, but they should draw correctly. Currently this will leak memory like a sieve. Every time you open the window it'll allocate memory, and because we haven't implemented it on close, it's not going to free the memory. So it's very badly designed as it is right now. Whilst we're waiting for this to compile, we can start adding in, go back to the events, have a look to see if there's any really easy ones. Oh, that close one. That's all it's doing is freeing the object. Oh no. What mistake did we make? Going a bit slow. Oh, we've defined self twice. Oh, that was quite an easy one to fix. If that's the least of my issues, I'll be quite pleased. So, let's hope it actually draws. It's doing something. It's a bit messed up, but it's doing something. I think that's pretty good. Yep, quite pleased with that. So that's obviously not doing an invalidate, and it's crashed there because it's not handled some sort of situation. Yeah, that was pretty pleased with that. Well, I think that's been an hour. I'm just going to have a quick look to see if there's any other really easy functions. Oh, that is a really easy function. Let's do that one on mouse up. So mouse up functions, we like to do them pretty much all the same, which is a switch statement and then the yeah. So even though there's only one thing in this, it makes it look really neat if every single one has a mouse up exactly the same. There's a little switch statement, goes to a close button, and it closes. Easy ozy, nice. I'm slightly concerned that the draw function was so far off. So it should draw the widgets correctly. Oh, that's another really easy function. Oh. This is quite often what you find. There's an absolute ton of really easy functions. You get stuck in a loop where you're just like, oh, let's do that one, let's do that one, let's do that one. So this is scroll get size, and I know that it's the scroll height that we need to set, because this is how that one works, and it is. So this global variable must represent the number of items in the scroll window. It's strange that like they've copied it into row count and then they've also got it as a separate variable. Not sure why. It's a bit different. So that was quite easy. Scroll mouse down. Slightly more complex. I'm not going to do that right now because it's got a little game command. Game commands take a little while to implement. It's still obviously not working. Why is that so? The windows are wrong size. That's because we haven't done... There must be something which would update the size. There's normally a resize function. We've got scroll size. Have we missed something? Mouse over, tooltip.
Just a question from my side. You didn't switch the X and Y, the 400 and 272?
You think when I just guessed that it was that way around, that it shouldn't have been a guess?
I'm not sure. Maybe if you compare with the original, then you will see.
Yeah, I did think when I was doing that, I was like, was it wider than it was tall? I can't actually remember. Yeah, that looks much better. Now we've got our close button.
Yeah, because the string, the title was a bit out of the window.
I'll just have to edit it in the when I put it up to YouTube. Just say like, of course I've purposely done this wrong, just to see if anyone's on their toes. Right, let's have a look at the tooltip function. Yeah, that's a really simple function. C9 201. List. That's it's not what I was expecting. It doesn't sound like it's the right thing. But maybe it is. It was easy done. Mouse over and mouse done. This function looks pretty easy. This is mouse over. Always have a check to see if a function call exists. So this is playing with this malloc memory for this window. And that will be working out what it is you're hovering over. I really want to rip out all of the stuff related to this and replace it with a much nicer container. I don't think I will do this function right now. Change my mind. So that's mouse down and mouse over. I'm not going to do right now. Draw a function. Yeah. Oh, that's prepare draw. We've already done that. That's going to be relatively simple. on what offset 840 represents. It is row hover. I thought it was something like that. So this must be when you don't have it hovered over a face, then it obviously doesn't display anything for the face. So yeah, JZ meaning J equal. So if the row hover equals -1, then we're just gonna return. It's nice and simple. Oh, what is this doing? 50D15C. Another thing you can always do is have a look to see where else any cross references to it. So this has been used in the object selection and also this window. And a few other things. Not too sure what it's representing. Some sort of structure. It's a bit annoying because I'll have to go work out what the structure is before I can finish this function. Right, that's another one I'll leave for a later point because I'm not going to spend an age working that out. Draw scroll. This doesn't look too complex. No, that one's actually quite simple. But I think this has dragged on for a while now, so I don't think I will go any further. Just clean up a little bit, remove that. And what we can do is add in, scroll mouse down. Since I'm not doing these ones right now, I should replace them with calls. And if you are thinking of contributing to this project, then don't feel as though you have to do every single function of a window before you send a PR, and don't think that we're not going to merge it unless you've done every single function, because it doesn't, we don't actually need you to do every single one. And in some ways it's quite nice just having smaller PRs, very easier to review. So just feel free to just leave some calls like this. I mean, obviously it's great if you have time to go and implement the whole thing. Even better if it works. That's the best. But if you don't have the time and you've only done a little bit, doesn't matter. We'll still enjoy having that contribution. Because I mean, just setting up the window does take a little bit of time. Even if you only did that, that would still be helpful. So this window should, oh, I haven't done the onClose. So the onClose function was pretty simple, but I'm still just gonna just skip it for now. Okay, so I think we've covered everything. Every situation has got a colon, or we've implemented it. What I should have done is put the name of that. I should have put a comment in there. Let's just quickly do that so I don't forget. I mean, I know we've implemented it, but any reviewer who does want to double check your implementation makes it much easier if you've got all of the addresses on there. So even though I've only done a little bit of this function, we can just call it again, and it should work fine. This drew on the window, and it'll just draw on top of it again. You won't have any issues doing that. No, that's not always true for every single function. You can't just call into the loco.exe in every situation like that. But for that one, I'm pretty sure it's fine. So that window should all be working now. The proof will be in the testing. So yeah, it does seem to be working. Change the owner. And then we should probably check it with a non... Oh, you can't check it because obviously you can't open the window. So obviously you can't select ones which are used by other companies. A bit of useful information which we'll use when we come to finishing off this. Right, so that is basically done. So last thing, obviously, before you send in any change, is to commit your results. It's even nicer if you spell correctly. All good. Right, does anyone have any questions for me? Is anyone still around?
Yes, I am.
Any questions?
No, just I can, but that's maybe for later. That when you do equals -1,
Yeah.
so just a remark. I know it's an original code is this way, but in the future, I guess all the negative numbers are the same, like -1. So if you do, it's
Yeah, there
less
would
than
be
0,
there'll
but
be
that's
some.
like a future optimizations, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
in an assembly code, it will be 1 byte less, which in many bytes it makes a bit faster because of the cache lines and everything. So just a remark, but that's a very minor.
yeah. I mean, also, I shouldn't really be writing -1. It should be a defined null value. But I'm just pretty much following the what we've done in the other windows. But yeah,
I mean, it's correct because this was in assembly code, but yeah, this may be some future work.
yeah. I don't think you really need to concern yourself too much with performance when it's something like that. I mean, I know this draw function is called every update, but this branch is such a minor part of that draw function. Like a minor improvement to that is going to make absolutely no difference overall.
Well,
It's
probably not in a small function, but
no,
overall.
no,
But I think at the moment is not important. Just
no.
my sense, 2 cents.
Yeah. Anything else? No. All right.
No.
Well, I hope it was informative to you, and I hope it was helpful.
Definitely for me.
Well, thanks very much, and I hope to see your contributions later on if you get time. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm preparing a new one. So.
Oh, that'll be good. Right, I am going to stop my recording.